Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates, a podcast where we explore what is possible in the world of investing. If you've just joined us for the first time, a massive welcome to the Equity Mates community. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce. Very excited for this episode. Loving that we're back for a big year in 2025. We've done our bold predictions. We've established our stocks of the year. We've spoken to some great experts already. But one thing that we like to do each quarter is check in on our personal finances, and we do it with a platform called Pocketsmith, where we track all of our spending, all of our saving, the money that we're putting towards investing, to really get an insight of where our money is going and if it aligns with where we think it's going. And so every quarter we come on the podcast and we share what's happening and what our goals are for the quarter and for the year ahead in this case.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going under the hood and sharing where our money is and where we want it to go.
Now, before we kick off, a huge thank you to Pocketsmith for their long-term support of Equity Mates throughout 2024 and into 2025. They were founded in New Zealand in 2008, and they are an all-in-one personal finance platform. From net worth to spend tracking to planning big financial decisions, Pocketsmith definitely has it all.
You can integrate your superannuation, your bank, your brokers, share site, and more to get a complete financial picture. If you would like to manage your money like a pro, Pocketsmith has a special deal for Equity Mates listeners. Get 50% off your first 2 months of Pocketsmith's foundation plan. To get your deal, go to pocketsmith.com/equitymates.
Nice. We'll put a link in the show notes. Now, we've spoken about it a number of times on the show last year, and the most important factor in building wealth is not which stocks you pick, not which property you buy, not how much you even get paid. It's how much you can save.
Yes,
it is your savings rate. And so for us, the constant quest is how can we improve our savings rate to have more cash flow to put into the market and investments.
That is it. And if you don't believe us, there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. It was written in the 90s, but the lessons still hold today. And what they found, they surveyed, I think, a few thousand millionaires, and it was those that were frugal and saved and then took those savings and put their money to work in investments, in productive assets. Those were the people that got ahead. So the most common car that a millionaire drove, not a Lamborghini, not a Ferrari, but a Ford. And so that is the ethos that we take here at Equity Mates. We want to find the next hot stock.
You have a Ford?
I actually don't own a car.
Alice has one.
Yeah, but I'm a bus
You're
guy.
A bus guy.
Yeah. So, I take it even a step further. I want to be the billionaire next door. No, but I think, look, we obviously want to find the next hot stock. We want to make money from investing, but I think just as important is the amount of money you can put away to invest.
Yeah.
And so that's where platforms like Pocketsmith can be really handy.
Absolutely. That's the name of the game. So, what are your goals for the year?
Yeah, so first episode with Pocketsmith for the year. So that's what this is all about, goals. Yeah. My goal is to increase my savings rate to 25%. Nice. So, last year, I was having a look at Pocketsmith in preparation for this episode, and my savings rate came in like a scratch over 20%.
Solid.
So from my after-tax take-home pay, I was able to either save or invest like 20.something% of it, 20.2% of it or something. And when we were chatting on an episode last year, you shared that your savings rate was 38%. And I checked, I went on to Xero and had a quick look, and we do get paid the same. Had to double check that. And as far as I can tell, you don't have some elaborate tax avoidance scheme. So that was certainly motivating for me.
38% is the free cash after everything's paid for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like savings rate, like we inevitably spend it going on holidays and bits and pieces.
Well, or you invest it.
Or
you save it in your emergency fund.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not at the end of the year I've like have 38% saved.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like,
oh, so you're including like if you've got a shorter term savings account for like a holiday.
it's like 38% is the free cash after mortgage, insurance, grocery bills, everything, even like the spending for beers and bits and pieces on spending. Like after all of that's accounted for, then 38% is savings and investing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But inevitably some of that will be spent on, do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah. I still think, yeah.
Just to be clear, like I'm not at the end of the year, I won't be able to show that there's 38% of my income has been saved because...
Yeah. But like at the end of the fortnight before our next pay, 38% of that money hasn't been spent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess same thing.
Glad we clarified.
Anyway, you know what I mean.
So, my original goal was going to try and get it to 33%, and I'll talk to some of the numbers in a minute, but I realized that was probably unrealistic. So my goal is 25%.
Okay.
What about you? What's your goal?
My goal this year is we're going to get some financial advice because I think over the last 12 months, I've really understood the power of trying to reduce your non-deductible debt as fast as possible and not necessarily reduce the principal. Well, yeah, reduce the principal, but change your non-deductible into deductible debt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we seem to learn time and time again when we speak to advisors on the podcast is that some of the most effective wealth building strategies really center around tax minimization.
Yes.
And whether that is if you're a homeowner, finding ways to turn your non-deductible mortgage debt into tax-deductible investment loan debt.
Yeah.
Or if it's through things like education and investment bonds.
Yeah.
Or if it's through, other tax structures. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the goal for this year. So I'm as I go through the journey, I'll certainly unpack it. But over the summer, we sat down with an advisor and sort of spoke about what our goals were. And I put a pretty lofty goal in front of him and said, I'd like to have cleared the mortgage within the next by the time I'm in my mid-40s. That's what we said. So sort of 12 years from now.
Okay.
I know that's not a 2025 goal, but this year is going to be about starting that journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. Like, your goals don't have to have a conclusion date of the 31st of December.
No. So that's what we're working towards, clearing the mortgage by the time we're in our mid-40s. How we're going to do that, I'll speak about on the show as we go. But as you imagine, and as you said, it's going to be now about how can we manipulate the mortgage environment to start essentially being as tax effective as possible.
Serious red flag waving above my head at this point. It's like all of your focus is now paying down your mortgage as quickly as possible. Is that going to really have a drag on your hosting of a stock market investing podcast?
The good news is like the what we pay towards the mortgage isn't actually going to change. Yeah. It's what we can do with the redraw or refinancing and pulling equity out and all of that sort of stuff, and actually going out and buying more assets.
Yeah. Okay.
Under a loan environment, so it's not like take all of that cash flow and just pour it into the mortgage.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we'll actually probably end up taking on more debt, which
make
is
it deductible,
the scary part.
Recycle the investments back into the mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. What it might do is change risk appetite a little bit because it'll be effectively a leveraged portfolio because you'll be leveraged. So I'm this whole conversation I had at the end of last year around my leveraged ETFs, like you'll be leveraging on leverage.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
Balls deep.
All right.
So anyway, we'll unpack it as we go, but that's the broad goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
And I'll unpack. I'll chat a little bit about it in a bit more detail later on. But talk us through your 25%.
Okay, so as I said, the original goal was going to be 33%. Could I try and do it? So I looked at the numbers on PocketSmith and like my broad categories. So this is what 2024 looked like for me. So mortgage was 43%.
Yep.
Can't do anything about it. This is from my after-tax income.
Yeah,
so tax is already out at this point. Mortgage was 43%. Saving and investing, as I said, was 20%. Groceries and eating out, and so that's like food broadly defined, was 15%. Subscriptions and bills was about 15% as well. And then miscellaneous spending was the remaining 7%. And so that's, everything from beers to weekends away, whatever. And so I was like, all right, how do I work the budget to get my saving and investing goal? Now, we got a slight pay rise. We did. An inflation and adjustment at the end of last year. So mortgage went from 43% to 41%.
Oh, nice.
But there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
That's just fixed, and it is what it is. Saving and investing, I said if I want it to be 33%, that's 33%. So what are we at? 74% already. And so I've got another 26% to basically live on. And I kind of said I could really squeeze subscriptions and memberships and bills, try and get it to like 8%. Spending, 17%. Really cut down on the miscellaneous spending. No beers. Only put it on the work card. Ask Alice to shout me.
Yeah.
It's unrealistic and it's dumb, and I wouldn't enjoy my life that way. I think it's just, it would just make me. It wouldn't make me resent. It would just make me. I wouldn't enjoy it.
You wouldn't enjoy it.
And also, as I was doing this, I just had a look over my January spending so far and realized how unrealistic.
Not the best month to look at it.
I know, but I know because it's like, you're going out more and there's more social stuff going on. But some of this stuff,
you want to look at midwinter.
So the miscellaneous spending that I just wouldn't be able to get to zero. There was a night out where there was like $75 in Beam payments that came after that. There was birthday gifts, like a couple $100 for that. $45 for a few Kindle books, $300 for a box.
Yeah.
And so, you can't do anything about those things.
No.
I'm not going to say no to going to someone's box or having a night out or refuse to put in for people's birthdays.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop reading. I mean, I guess I could go to a library, but Kindle's
marginal.
Kindle's so convenient.
Yeah.
And so I just walked back that goal and said, look, 33% unrealistic. So 25% is what I'm aiming for, to give myself some of that fat miscellaneous spending, to get from 20% to 25%. It's not going to be as hard as I thought. I've culled some subscriptions. KO got the flick. A number of streaming services got the flick.
Shit.
KO might come back into the equation with the footy,
Yeah.
but we'll see. And then looking at my grocery budget on Pocketsmith, their Uber Eats and groceries often can be quite similar in total.
Yeah.
And really, the easiest lever to pull is really reduce that, eating out or Uber Eats and upweighting that groceries.
Yeah.
And so 25% is a goal. Over these episodes, we'll talk about how I'm tracking against that goal. I'm sure other things will come up over the course of the year that become a goal. And really then from there, once I can get that consistently, the name of the game for me this year is to really find good investments. We've done a heap of work on our core portfolios. I'm feeling really confident about where that is. A dollar cost average there consistently. I have a small dollar cost averaging into crypto. I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about that. For me, the thinking is individual stocks and where I can find interesting opportunities. So hopefully I can take that extra money that I'm saving, put it to good use.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the day as well, like you've got the rate of 25%, but all of those sort of miscellaneous things aren't going to be consistent month on month. You might have a couple of months where you don't find there's any bucks payments or birthday gifts. And then I'm imagining that if there's any residual, you'll be allocating that to spending or to savings or investing or whatever. Definitely. If you build up a bit of a bank and away you go. And the good thing with Pocketsmith as well is you can put all of that into Pocketsmith from a budget point of view, and it will automatically live feeds from your banks track where you're up to day on day, month on month against those categories. So easy to check how you're going.
So I'll be able to tell you as I go. Just one last point around the how. I think when it comes to budgeting, there's a lot of different methods that people will follow. There's the base zero budget. Anyway, like
3 jars or whatever.
3 jars. There's so many. I do I guess you'd call it the pay myself first method, but really all that is when I get paid, I have automatic transfers set up to like a emergency fund, my spending account, my brokerage account, mortgage. And so I try, and then there's always a little bit left over, which I guess is like the miscellaneous or the fat, just in case I need to, I spend too much or whatever. But really, I've kind of set it up so that 25% is automatically out.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. It's not. Yeah. You're just you make sure you send it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not. You're not tempted to.
It would require me to like go into a brokerage app and like transfer it back out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely the way to do it.
So that works for me, just because I know that if it's automated, I don't have to think about it. It doesn't require me to do anything, and it also then doesn't allow me to, not do it for a fortnight.
Yeah. As we've said in our Don't Stress, Just Invest book, the key to a lot of this is the ability to automate as much of this as possible.
So,
just get it out of your face and out of mind.
All right. Well, that's me. That's my goals. What about you? How are you going to approach 2025?
From an investment point of I mean, I'm looking forward to unpacking it all, but
this is the time to unpack it all.
Yeah, but we haven't got our statement of advice yet.
Okay.
That's going to be coming in probably the next month.
Yep.
At which point I'll really be able to sit down and sort of say this is how we're doing things. Mm-hmm. But broadly, from an investment point of view, the strategy will remain the same: core and satellite.
Yep.
That's not going to be any different. And from how we manage our money, it's going to change a little bit in terms of how Harriet and I both pay for things and the names of which things are going to go under, because again, it's all about tax. So where I thought we might be sharing investments and those sorts of things, that's all going to change. So a lot to come. But what I've learned is that it is all about cash flow. And I think the advice, it's kind of crazy. There's nothing special to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They take your cash flow and effectively say, to your point, this is where we need to direct the most of it so we can get the biggest tax return possible.
Yeah, and it's like you're calling it cash flow here, but really it's exactly what we were saying earlier, which is your savings rate.
Yeah,
it's just so spend less than you earn and put the difference to work.
Yeah, and it's not like they're coming and saying, okay, you're putting this much into stocks, but we're going to suggest it's these stocks and make your money work harder for you. It's like, this is your cash, and this is where you should be putting it so we can maximize your free cash flow.
Your financial advisor isn't saying, looking at your portfolio over the last 10 years, you've returned 12% per annum, and I'm going to make you 15% per annum, and that's how I'm going to justify my fees.
Exactly.
They're saying you've been saving and investing 38%, and we're going to find a way with some tax minimization strategies and some spending adjustments. We're going to find a way to make that 45%.
Exactly.
And that's how we're going to justify our fees.
Yeah, and then that 45% is then going to be put back into the same strategies to kind of just multiply that effect year on year on year on year. Yeah.
So how much tax are you going to minimize?
Well, this is the other thing, and the advisors are very clear on it. Like to map something out over 12 years is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
From an assumptions point of view. But the way they kind of do it is say, if you continue doing what you're doing now, this is where you can anticipate being. Mm-hmm. If taking the same assumptions with a new strategy around, so liquidating the portfolio is going to be one thing, and using that to pay down the mortgage, then refinance to draw that back out, and then repurchasing the portfolio that we have and using the debt to dollar cost average and buy stock. So that's going to be one part of it. Using those same assumptions, this is where you should expect to be. So whilst you can't just assume that there's going to be linear growth across everything for 12 years, which is effectively what they show you, by looking at the two different strategies with the same assumptions, you can kind of see how it would play out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And so for people wondering why Bryce would do that, sell his whole portfolio, put it into his mortgage, then redraw it, and then buy the same portfolio, it's because if you have a residential mortgage, it's not tax deductible. But if you redraw it as an investor loan, it is tax deductible. And so the tax saving is the reason that Bryce will be advised to do that. When you rebuy the portfolio, are they going to give you any suggestions on like, oh, that was a bad pick, or like your portfolio construction or weighting is wrong here? Or is it like...
If we want it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think they will probably lean into it a bit because
I would ask for the advice, even if you don't follow it.
Definitely.
Like,
yeah. So, so we can either say just take it all, and you just completely manage it.
They manage it.
They completely manage it. And for that, I then asked for their track record. I'm like, show us what you've done for other clients. Or, I mean, they've done well.
Okay.
But their point was, we're not here to try and
They're not trying to beat
the market.
Just,
we're not fund managers.
Yeah.
We're not like we don't care if we're pumping out 74% returns. We're trying to get your objective.
Yeah.
Or on the other side, we can completely manage it ourselves through our own brokers if we want to, and they can provide a level of guidance if they think it's the right or wrong thing to be doing based on what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
With the one big thing in the strategy is actually a lot more active selling, which I think is interesting. Every year, if there are capital gains, then there's an element of selling a portion of the gains to put back into the mortgage to then redraw. And that is how you kind of continue building the deductible debt. So you kind of, let's assume you make 15%. You might sell the total 15% gain or thereabouts. Obviously, there'll be a tax on it. Use that to pay down the mortgage, redraw it and put it straight back in, so your total position in the stock market hasn't changed. And then you've then added an additional component to pay down. So I questioned him on that, like the long-term value of compounding and all of that sort of stuff. But his point is your net position is going to stay the same because you keep topping it up.
As long as the tax that you pay on the capital gains is less than the benefit you're getting from the tax deduction, I guess over time.
And so there might be years you don't sell anything, but part of the whole strategy is taking income and income either from dividend or from selling capital gains throughout every year. So a lot to kind of think through and for us to discuss on the show, but that's where we're kind of at, and that's what the thinking is at the moment. And to cash flow point of view, this Pocket Smith has been super helpful in us having an accurate, I guess, representation for our advisors on where our cash flow is at. Because like at the end of the day, if you tell them you reckon you could be saving 50% of your income or whatnot, and you're actually not, then you're on the back foot already.
Well, it'll be an interesting journey to follow. We should say, if people are interested in speaking to an advisor, we have a referral service where we can put you in touch with one of our handpicked trusted advisors. Go to equitymates.com/advice, fill out the form, let us know a little bit about you, and we'll put you in touch with someone who we think fits your circumstances, and you can do the same thing that Bryce is doing. Yeah. I probably should do the same.
Yeah, worth it. Well, I think I said at the end of last year, we spoke to 3. It's worth speaking to them, just doing the free consultations anyway, I reckon.
Yeah. I think the other thing, just we've probably got some cohort of advisors yelling at us at this point. It's like, your advisor isn't building their reputation and building their client base on investment returns.
No.
We've certainly spoken to advisors who their point of difference is investment returns and access to opportunities. And the person that comes to mind is Charlie Viola and Viola Private Wealth.
Yeah.
You know, they do everything you're talking about for their clients, but like their real point of difference is the opportunity set that they give their clients access to.
They make the money go further.
Yeah. So, you know, depending on what you want, I think it's important you date your advisor, because they all have different expertise. They might specialize in different types of client, you know, self-employed, doctors.
Well, I mean,
podcasters.
yeah, and we're doing insurance, maternity leave, like the whole shebang with our advisor. It's not just how do we reduce our mortgage. It's like, this is what's going to happen to us over the next 10 years. How's it all going to hang together?
Yeah.
Can we afford to go single income for a year while Harriet might be having a child and whatnot? Like, how does that all play out? And they map it out and kind of show you. And for us, that was actually it was kind of like okay, you know, it's going to be okay.
Oh, it's going to be okay.
Well,
oh,
I mean,
good.
as in like, it's like, it's going to be manageable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's going to be easy, but like, unless you do that work yourself, just having someone kind of show you this is how you can do it. It's holistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
nice.
good.
All right. Well, I feel like 2025 is the year I slowly get convinced to follow Bryce's lead and get an advisor. But yeah, look, equitymates.com/advice if you're interested as well. But I think that will do us for today's episode. A massive thank you to PocketSmith. If you want to join us and do a quarterly checkup, then check out PocketSmith. Integrate your superannuation, your bank, your brokers, share site, and more to get a complete financial picture.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact to close it out from their global spending map. A recent report from the Australian Actuaries Institute shows that fast rising home insurance premiums have plunged 1.6 million households into affordability stress. Their spending map backs this up, showing an 8% increase in insurance spending from July 2023 of $382 to July 2024 to $417. So if you actually Google PocketSmith spending map, you can check it out how your spending is compared to your peers.
And don't worry, offline after this, I'll chat to Bryce about what fun fact means, because that certainly wasn't fun. But if you would like to manage your money like a pro, PocketSmith has a special deal for Equity Mates listeners. Get 50% off your first 2 months of PocketSmith's foundation plan. To get your deal, go to pocketsmith.com/equitymates.
Love it. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. If you haven't joined us in the Facebook discussion group, make sure you do. Plenty of activity happening in there. We love to hear from you. But as always, Ren, we'll pick it up next week.
Sounds good.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.
Equity.